The Boston Bruins have a huge decision to make based on their goaltending heading up in this season with the absence of Jeremy Swayman for the time being. And with the recent move to acquire somebody, we're going to be talking about how this is going to impact and possibly reveal the plan of what they're going to do this season with goaltending. We're going to be talking about that as well as with the recent moves they made today, calling up a few players that could get their final look and a crack to make the NHL roster. We're going to be talking about those players as well and which of those could potentially crack the opening day roster here in the video. Before we get into it, however, we know 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for us about to get all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join me here on the channel as we cover everything Boston Bruins related. And we're going to have a very interesting season on our hands with the absence of Jeremy Swayman and still having this situation go throughout the season. And you're not going to want to miss when we finally have a major update in this contract. But without any further ado, let's get to our first topic here of the video, which is the goalie plan that has been revealed with the recent acquisition of Jiri Patera off waivers from the Vancouver Canucks. Now, this was a very unexpected move to a lot of fans, and a lot of people were kind of questioning why this move was made right now with the PTO to Casimir Cascusio, and then now going out and claiming Jiri Patera off waivers, while having already Joonas Korpisalo, Brandon Bussi, and Mikey DiPietro. We now have a good idea of what is going to happen in the NHL this year. Now, with a bit of a predicament in this side of things is that Brandon Bussi and Jiri Patera both need to clear waivers to get sent down to the AHL, and both of those guys would likely be claimed if either of them were to be sent down. So this kind of keeps the Bruins in a bit of a predicament. Now, similar to one where we've seen the Montreal Canadiens in last season for the majority of it, where they were rocking 3 goalies in their NHL roster. Now, a lot of teams would be considering this to be a major problem. But for us right now, I do not think that at all. I think this is actually quite a good plan, especially with the absence of Jeremy Swayman and a lot of uncertainty surrounding the current guys. And let's pull up our first screenshot here and it says, if Jiri Patera was placed on waivers, the Canucks would have a chance to reclaim him. However, Bussi also needs to clear waivers before being reassigned to Providence, so the Bruins have a tough decision to make. Now, the tough decision there part of things is not really, I would say, a tough decision. I think that it's pretty safe to say that the Bruins are going to be running with 3 goalies for the time being, at least. Now, we know that Jiri Patera, quite a good goalie who was claimed off waivers from the Vancouver Canucks, as you see here, would be reclaimed by Vancouver. They pretty much come out and said that themselves, and a lot of fans, teammates, staff are kind of hinting at that indirectly. But Brandon Bussi is another one where if he were to go on waivers, he would most certainly be claimed, which would suck as well, because we know he's kind of our goalie of the future. Of course, not discussing about Jeremy Swayman, but he's still a very, very good option to go. And I think the Bruins with him were trying to go to that Brandon Bussi, Jeremy Swayman, as Jeremy Swayman was to Linus Ullmark type of deal in a few years' time. But it's lots of time before that happens. Things can change, absolutely. And when you pull up the stats here, first of all, going to Jiri Patera, I'll put this up in the bigger one here. Jiri Patera does have some NHL game action, which is a good thing to be able to hold at a goaltender right now who the Bruins kind of need someone to have some extra NHL experience, especially with Korpisalo being our starter. And as I mentioned, a lot of the uncertainty there surrounding how good he will be, although I'm a firm believer that he will be in a big bounce-back season with Bob Esnos at his side. But Jiri Patera, going to the Vancouver Canucks, didn't really have an option to do much there. Now with the Boston Bruins, and seeming to be staying on this roster, at least for the time being. And of course, there are going to be moves later made down the line, whether that is the signing of Jeremy Swayman, whether that is, a goalie injury or whatnot. Hopefully that don't happen, the latter one. But there are lots of opportunities where something can happen. But right now, Jiri Patera, in my opinion, is probably going to be our 2A. I think we're going to be rocking kind of a 1 and a 2A, 2B situation, as I mentioned, similar to what the Montreal Canadiens did last season, and didn't work out for them, but it was a much different situation as well. Heading over to Brandon Bussi. Brandon Bussi does not have any NHL experience, as we're well aware, although very, very good down in Providence the past few seasons, and I think that game will translate very well to the NHL when he gets that opportunity to get in the net. Now, the preseason for him wasn't the greatest. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. However, the preseason is a whole different beast than the regular season. So the regular season is going to be much more challenging. It's going to be much more difficult, much more consistency from the players that you're going up against. But I also think that's going to have to do with Brandon Bussi getting that experience as well, getting a few games under his belt and everything like that. That is going to be a big part of this. So what it's looking like right now and what we're kind of hinting at, looking at, is that the Bruins are going to be going with 3 goalies in the beginning of the season, to say the least. And for as far as we know, this could be the entire season. But right now, 3 goalies. Let me know what you think about it. I'm honestly a pretty big fan of it, just because of the uncertainty that we're facing, the uncertainty that we're going to be holding with at least Brandon Bussi, as well as Jiri Patera as a backup, but also Joonas Korpisalo and all that whole situation that's ongoing right now. So let me know what you think about that. Are you a big fan of it? Do you want to have 2 goalies? And if so, which of those 2 would you place on waivers and likely see departed? But let's move on to our second topic here of the video, which is the Bruins players that were recalled today are kind of getting a final look. And this is what was going to be a big telltale tonight of what we're going to see in the game. Not too much of the game result is going to matter to anybody watching, or even the scouts, the coaches, staff. We're going to be looking at who could it maybe start the season in the NHL and who is going to be kind of that number 1 call-up role for the Bruins team right now. So if I pull up the screenshot from Scott McLaughlin, here are the players that were recalled. Bruins recalled forwards Riley Duran, Brett Harrison, Georgi Merkulov, Jackson Nelson, defenseman Michael Callahan, Jackson Edwards, and goalies Ryan Bichelle and Casimir Cascusio from Providence. Now, the goaltending side of things, I don't think that's going to be something that we're going to be really paying attention to tonight. I think that's something that, they're just doing to not get any injuries. We know that the NHL preseason injuries have been very tough this year, unfortunately. But the goaltending side of things, that's not too much of an issue right now, especially having 3 in the NHL. But as for the forwards and defense, I probably see 4 names here that I think we should really keep a close eye on tonight. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't keep an eye on the others, but Riley Duran, Georgi Merkulov, Jackson Nelson, and Jackson Edward, 4 of those guys for me, are ones I think could have a chance at not just cracking the roster at some point this season, but cracking it very, very early due to an injury, due to many, many other reasons that, could affect the roster change or could make a roster change. But Georgi Merkulov was one that we know we're kind of hoping that we see him sooner rather than later after an an AHL season last year. That was very good. One that we hope that he can translate that to the NHL sooner rather than later. But Riley Duran as well. He's been putting up some very, very impressive games as of late. He's been putting up a big case for him to be able to make this roster, not even just soon, but right away. We do have maybe a few spots that could change, and obviously nothing is set until the puck drops on opening night. But for the most part, there's a few of these guys here that are going to be in serious consideration for a role later on in this season. That's exactly what Scott McLaughlin here said. I think it's a credit to Jackson Nelson that he's one of the guys who might get one final look tonight. Thought he was somewhat quiet, had really been a strong camp. Bruins suddenly have a lot of center depth, but he could be putting himself on a call-up radar. So that's what a lot of this is going to be. As you can see, these players that I'll pull up once again here and kind of go off this. These players right here are going to be more so watched rather than come up to play tonight, just to have them extra line up there, to have some of the regulars out, which is another big case, of course. But this is a big part of who will be up due to an injury, due to someone not playing well, and who's going to really make a case for themselves to become this next NHL player to make this roster and hopefully kind of stay here, stay up with the Boston Bruins and stay on this team for the foreseeable future. So let me know what you think about the roster that we're putting in tonight, as well as, of course, that 3-goaltender NHL situation that, for as far as we know, could be going the whole season. A lot of interesting stuff that we're seeing from the Boston Bruins ahead of the regular season. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.